we welcome a man whose creative vision has enriched Indian cinema with enduring, unforgettable works. He's not just a director, he's a poet and the true genius behind the timeless classic Umrao Jan. His films aren't just stories.
What was the first profession you ever dreamt of in Lucknow when you were young that you would like to pursue and become?
See, I think all young children, they have dreams. They want to be something. They want to be recognized. They want to feel the world. They want to explore the world. And when you're a teenager, then actually everything is open to you. Yet everything is far away from you. So to come near something which you can say, this is my calling, is a very big thing for a dreamer, for a young teenager, you know. So basically, all I thought of doing was that's the only thing I could do was to sketch. So I used to sketch, and I thought maybe there's something I can do better than other people. And I started getting the art prize in my class. I think that little pen that in my hand, the pencil in my hand, and a notebook which I always carry all the time, you know, this has been my kind of a steady companion. And at least I had something more than anybody else, a pen in my hand and a piece of paper in my hand. And when I went to Aligarh, I discovered that maybe there was something more than just sketching, you know. And that was really the power of poetry. I had gone to study science, but when I went there, I realized that the power of poetry was more alluring, more engaging than anything else. But then another friend of mine told me कि अगर अच्छी शायरी सुनने को मिल जाए तो शायरी मत करना. So I kept that in my safe deposit, and I always, use that dictum कि शायरी मत करना, which gave me a new way of feeling, a lot of different kind of artistic expressions, artistic concerns of people. So one thing was out that I'm not going to become a poet, and as a painter it was very intimate. And when I went to Calcutta, then I realized that there was something much bigger that was happening around us. As a teenager, we were watching films all the time. You know? Where I was living in Lucknow in Kasarbagh, in a radius of about 2 kilometers, there must have been 20 cinema halls. You know? And for me, seeing a film was like a catharsis. I had to go and see a film every day, every second day, every third day. And it was really something, I loved it, you know. Except that when I came back and I thought finding everybody asleep was not a very nice feeling, to leave the whole world sleeping when you come back. But films began to engage that kind of an imagination, which I think was engaging the entire country, the entire Indian youth. But when I went to Calcutta, I saw a different world opening, you know, a world of very, very serious cinema, a world of feeling cultures, the world of authenticity, the world of artistry. And that was working with Mr. Ray. I mean, he happened to be the chairman of the company and gone to work in advertising, Clarion McCann. And watching him very closely, and then his friends very closely, I realized that it's very important to present what you're made up of to the world, you know what I mean? I mean, ultimately, that's what filmmaking is all about. It's about what is your chemistry, what is your geology, what is your botany, and that is what has to reach the world, because that's the only way. to become an artist is to be rooted into that kind of a ethos which has created you. So the first germ of becoming a filmmaker was born then when I saw the films of Mr. Ray. I used to enter into a dark hall, and then the beam would just create images which, for me, they were mind-boggling because they were all unpredictable images. They were different from Bollywood. Bollywood images were very, very predictable, but the images I saw there were artistic and unpredictable. And that's what I kept thinking, maybe one day I can create these unpredictable, mind-blowing images which assault your imagination. So that was really the beginning of the first kernel of might become a filmmaker.
The other thing that happened between the two films, and yeah, maybe you're right that you were still at home in terms of the story, the vocabulary, and where the film was. It was still coming out organically. You were not saying that, "Chalo, I made a film now. Let me look bigger or more commercial." But I think one of the things that did make Umrao Jan maybe more accessible in spite of being a period film and a Muslim social at that time, which is maybe that era had ended of those films being successful. But I think the the big leap that happened between the two films was the music. Both have great music, both have timeless music, both the music albums have stood the test of time. But there was something about Umrao Jan's music that has given the film and given um, you a different kind of status. Apart from just the comparison, I want to know how you approached music, because that's that's something that is so integral to Hindi films. That is something that is so ours, and it has our stamp on it in spite of Hollywood having musicals, but they have never been able to do what we do with songs. Um, that transcends moments, transcends characters, relationships, thoughts, visuals, images, many things. It gives like a different kind of wings to fantasy and creativity. What was your music journey between the two films?
You see, it was poetic music. It was music being born out of the poetry of music of poetry, because music and poetry is born out of a philosophy. It's born out of pain. It's born out of a journey, you know. And that's what when I talked about my journey, I talked about Aligarh, and I talked about my getting into poetry and not writing poetry. That's when I found that it's really poetry that can make you dream larger than life. And you have to dream with the poet, and the poet has to dream with you, which I found not so possible in Bollywood, in the Bollywood landscape, because there was too much of conditioning, too much of politics. There was this poet combination with that music director and all that kind of stuff. So if you take a music director, the poet has to be of his choice and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to take the poetic journey And the poetic journey of Gaman was born from one single ghazal. सीने में जलन आंखों में तूफान सा क्यों है इस शहर में हर शख्स परेशान सा क्यों है. तो this was my trigger point. And if I had not read this ghazal, maybe I may not have thought of the film the way I thought of the film. And the way it was composed was also, it had its own masti, it had its own lyricism, it had its own abandon, it had its own detachment. It was by the protagonist and without the protagonist, which my music director didn't understand. कि वो गाएगा नहीं तो फिर कैसे होगा? मैंने कहा, let's move on, you know. But I was just resonating his talent and my dreams, and I think somewhere or the other we hit upon melodies which just said, oh wow, ye hai sahi. So the way poetry became music was a new art I was discovering for myself. And I was looking at combinations of people who would help me to do that, you know. And I didn't want great egos to come in between my dream and their talent, you know. They had to surrender. I was ready. I was already surrendering to people all the time. Because in films, if you have to first surrender. जब भी आप किसी से मिलें तो पहले अगर आप आदाब कर लें तो वो आपका पहला सरेंडर हो ही जाता है. और उसके बाद फिर तमाम काम आसान हो जाते हैं. आप किसी को पहले झुक के नमस्ते कर लें तो इसका मतलब वो आधा तो आपका हो ही गया है. The same thing happens in films. The moment you deal with a relationship, create a relationship, whether it's a poet or a music director, you have surrendered. And then it is the tehzeeb of the other person to equally surrender. But here, if egos start playing, then you've lost the plot. And I think Bombay is full of such egos which help you to lose the plot all the time. And then it's only the money that counts, you know. Paisa phek, tamasha dekh wala hai maamla. So here what I did was I tried to create poetry, music out of poetry. And that is how Gaman happened, that is how Umrao Jaan happened. Umrao Jaan mein bhi Shahriyar was my companion. Shahriyar ke baghair now I can't think of lyrics. With Shahriyar gone, I don't know whose hand to hold. So I've been now looking at classic poets, Persian poets. I mean, I've been in a different world of poetry. But what Shahriyar and I did, I don't think these things can be repeated, you know.
So this is Parvinder Sandhu from UNI, Delhi. So yesterday, this question is to Muzaffar sir. Yesterday, we had an interaction with the JNK Film Board, the government setup that is there. So during the conversation, this topic of movies based on Kashmir and the reflection of Kashmir came up. So the guys, they said a very interesting thing that the narrative about Kashmir needs to be changed in the recent films. He gave example of Uri, more recently Baramulla on Netflix, and So basically they said that the narrative that is being shown in Kashmir needs to be changed. So the filmmakers these days are just coming there for a song, shoot a song, or maybe shoot one particular sequence and go away. But there is nothing that is coming, based on the heritage, culture, or what Kashmir is all about beyond the way it is being projected today. So since I believe Kashmir is very close to your heart, both father and son, so don't you think so that, reviving a film like Zuni, or maybe, coming up with some other movie that reflects the love and the culture that is from Kashmir is the need of the hour? And would you be working on such a project? Since Shad sir already holds a lot of movies that are actually from the heartland. So would you be, coming up with such a movie?
See, Zuni was such a movie. Zuni was going into a very unusual aspect of Kashmir. It was the identity of Kashmir. It was the way Kashmir should be felt by the rest of the country, is the way the rest of the country should feel about Kashmir. It was a very well considered screenplay, and I think had it been made, it would have definitely been a pathbreaker, you know. So what they are saying is absolutely right. You can't use Kashmir, you can't keep flirting with Kashmir. You know, Kashmir is not just a location. It's a culture, it's an ethos, it's people, it's their pain, it's their, you know, and that has to be brought out. There could be a million films coming out of Kashmir. I'm not saying Zuni was the only one, but Zuni was definitely one of them. And definitely Kashmir films have to be born in Kashmir, out of Kashmir, for Kashmir. Like films, I mean, I would think that it's almost like Iran. You know, Iran has their own ethos, their own culture, their own filmmakers. They understand their own pain. They understand the dialectics of their culture, the contradictions of their culture, and they're using that and they have a legacy of art forms like they have craft, they have nature, they have a lot of things, you know, and they use everything very beautifully to express themselves. So the same thing can happen in Kashmir. Kashmir has everything. It just needs young talent to grow organically out of that valley, and 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 and, and talk about themselves. You know what I mean? You don't need to invite anybody. You need to do. You need to grow them there.
Hello, sir. I'm both of you. I mean, a question to both of you. Like both of you mentioned, you said cinema can change the world. You said, I think cinema should do more than something, more than entertainment. You know. Actually, if you take this 2025 films, whatever coming in India, you know, all are suffering from cancer. You know, there are very, very great films, but they are only shown in film festival or one show or two shows. No, otherwise, all the films, you know, totally commercial. They're making selling popcorn, 800 crores, 1,000 crores, like that. But what do you mean by saying it should go beyond entertainment? And is cinema really doing help to humanity and society? Because I feel a very good film, about 3 hours, it's like a psychological doctor. I'm very happy 3 hours. You know, at least in one day in my life, or everybody very, very happy. So that entertainment is very, very good. You know, I don't know whether it changes the society from a lot of evil things. Please answer.
I think that itself, if you're saying, you're answering your question yourself by saying that if you are very, very happy, it'll definitely make you not do something evil for some time. Maybe 3 hours you won't do something evil. Fourth hour, what you'll do, at least the 3 hour film will have a 3 hour effect, hopefully. Yeah. So for me personally, because I went on this personal journey, has helped me address a lot of things. Like you said, being with a psychological doctor. So for me, it was not 3 hours, but almost, I don't know how many years. So it can do, these things can happen. I think there is, people were not wrong, or seniors were not wrong when they said that there is magic in celluloid. So I'll only say that because from a personal experience of doing this film. And I think even the films that are making 800 crores or 1,000 crores are having a similar impact on the makers, on the viewers. Sometimes they are so bad that it makes you not do bad things. Sometimes they are so good that it makes you do good things. So I think it'll still have a positive impact. Films will, I think, will never fail to surprise us, to entertain us, to heal us, to make us laugh and cry. It's. I mean, most of the people sitting here also don't know each other, but they'll react to something a person is saying or doing in a similar emotion. That I think that kind of magic happens only in this kind of a theater.
So, since the topic is about cinema and culture reflection from two eras, so I'm from the current era where I can see films like Kantara, which is bringing the true culture of India into place and bringing in audience from all around the world to the Indian cinema. But as the other person said, the other films are, in terms of films, they are films, but at the end, when it comes to box office, it's just numbers, but not people inside, is what I feel. So, when you have seen both the eras of films, what do you think has to change in the industry as a whole so that real, organic, authentic, cultural films are in place of theaters and the audience are truly drived into the film because of that inner stigma within them of divinity. For example, if we consider Kantara Part 1, it was the divine power of the cinema which actually brought in the cinema audience, right? But the new part which came in, it was about the impact that Rishabh Shetty has made to the audience or the star value. So, what do you think has to change from the previous era to this era so that more films like Kantara come in and more audiences are driven to true filmmaking? Thank you.
Nothing. Nothing has to change.
Actually, when you come to an international film festival, it's a learning process, you know. So more filmmakers and the aspiring filmmakers come and see how the world is addressing these issues. And today it's very important to see how the world is looking at themselves. And you learn from there, you know. And what you learn from there is something which India can't teach you. You have to learn on a very global way because it's a global language, you know.
And there are 7 billion people walking on this earth, thinking, imagining differently for a very, very long time, for that many years. So, what are you going to change? What are you expecting? Can you change yourself? Can you change the guy next to you? Can you change your father? Can you change your son? No. So why are you waiting for films to change or humanity to change? Nothing is going to change.
ऑलमोस्ट सभी लोगों ने फिल्म्स का कल्चर और उसके डाइवर्सिफिकेशन के बारे में सवाल पूछा। मेरा सवाल स्पेशली साद सर से है। मैं प्रोफेशनली मूवी इंडस्ट्री में अगर कोई ज्वाइन करना चाहते हैं या फिर अपना कंट्रीब्यूशन देना चाहते हैं एज ए न्यू कमर, एज ए फिल्म असिस्टेंट डायरेक्टर और डायरेक्टर, तो इससे संबंधित है। जैसा कि मेरे पास ब्रीफ इंफॉर्मेशन है कि आपने भी सर साथ सर स्पेशली मणि रत्नम सर के साथ एज ए असिस्टेंट डायरेक्टर अपना करियर डेब्यूट किया था, स्टार्ट किया था आपने। तो अगर हम लोग या कोई न्यू कमर्स आना चाहते हैं तो व्हाट स्पेशल क्वालिटीज डायरेक्टर मस्ट शॉन इन दिस कैंडिडेट एंड प्रोफेशनली क्या एटलीस्ट वो क्राइटेरिया उसमें होनी चाहिए ताकि आप उसको कंसीडर कर सकें एज ए असिस्टेंट डायरेक्टर, चाहे तो डायरेक्टर कंसीडर करें या फिर प्रोडक्शन हाउसेस के जो ऑफिशियली मेन इंचार्ज होंगे या प्रोड्यूसर। तो दैट्स माय क्वेश्चन सर, स्पेशली टू साद सर।
मेरा ऐसा कोई क्राइटेरिया नहीं है। आई थिंक इफ आई मीट समबडी एंड आई फील दैट आई कैन स्पेंड द नेक्स्ट 100 days विद दैट पर्सन, तो मेरे लिए उतना काफ़ी है। अगर उसके पास सारे क्राइटेरिया पहले ही होंगे तो वो आए क्यों रहे करने।
एज ए असिस्टेंट डायरेक्टर मेरा सवाल था, और हाउ टू अप्रोच।
अब वो एक अलग जर्नी है, वो बाहर मिलोगे तो मैं बताता हूँ।
थैंक यू सर।
या तो तुम भाग जाओ, कहीं ये भाग जाए।